Hello, I am Marina, and for my summative assessment for educational psychology, I'm going to be teaching my friend Avery here how to bake a loaf of sesame lemon bread. So the goals of this teaching lesson are to make sure that the student knows how to follow the procedure for making a loaf of sesame lemon bread, and ideally that the student will also understand why we're taking each step in the process, like what the purpose is of adding each ingredient. Alright, so let's get started. Okay, so the first step in this process is to measure out a cup of warm water. You don't want it to be too warm, so after you measure it, you want to check the temperature against your wrist, because if the water's too warm, it's going to kill the yeast. Alright, so
okay.
We're going to add a drop of honey and 2 packets of yeast.
Great. Okay, that's
and
good.
we're going to swirl that around. The purpose for adding the drop of honey is to give the yeast a little bit of sugar to break down, and that kind of like wakes them up and starts getting them activated. Right. So we're going to measure out 2 cups of flour and add this to the yeast. So
color's okay. I'm just dripping it. And you said, okay, that's it. Well, some also went.
Now we stir it, and we're going to cover it with a warm, damp cloth and allow it to rise for half an hour to an hour.
It'd be awkward if it didn't fit all over it. It did.
Oh, this is going to be nice. Alright, we're going to leave that, and so what's going to happen is the flour contains starch, which is a bunch of sugar molecules put together, right? So the enzymes in the yeast are going to break the starch down, and then they're going to break the sugar down into alcohol and carbon dioxide, and that's what makes the bread rise.
Yeah. Cool. Science.
Yes. So tell me, Avery, what baking experience have you already had, like when it comes to bread specifically?
I think I made bread. I made bread once. Yeah.
All right.
But I was basically just doing monkey work for a friend who was doing the bread.
Okay.
So basically, no. No.
Okay, alright, so good to know. And so far, has like what I've been explaining to you, like, is it making sense, or is there something that's like...
It's making sense so far.
Okay.
Hopefully that trend continues.
Alright. So why do we add yeast?
The yeast, it breaks down the sugar and then makes a chemical reaction producing the alcohols.
And the... So what makes... What's
it makes the red rise. I know that. I know that.
Okay.
That stuff. Bubblies.
Yeah.
Then you cut open the bread, there's all those air pockets.
Yeah,
that makes
exactly.
sense.
Cool. Alright, so while the sponge is rising, we're going to make what's called the mix. So this is basically a mix of a lot of the ingredients that are going to be the flavor of the bread. So in this case, since we're making sesame lemon bread, we are going to include some lemon juice, some tahini, some sesame seeds, and even though the recipe doesn't call for it, I'm going to add some lemon zest as well for a bit of extra lemon flavor. And in addition to that, so these things are the flavor, we're adding more honey, so this is more sugar for the yeast to break down, basically. And then we're going to add some salt. And the salt basically slows down the process of the rising of the bread because it dries out the yeast, and then they don't make as much carbon dioxide, so the bread doesn't rise quite as fast. So it's a way of like controlling the rising of the bread. So now all we have to do is wait for the sponge to finish sponging, and then we can add the mix. So yeah. Alright, so now that it's been an hour, let's check back on the sponge, Avery. And look at that! So all those bubbles, as we've discussed, created by the yeast.
Yeah, isn't that the carbon dioxide?
Yeah!
Yeah!
Good work.
I know words.
Alright, so the next step is going to be to add the mix.
Right. So wait, I pour this in?
Yeah, you just pour it in.
Okay, I was just making sure before I did it because I can't unpour.
Oh, look at that.
It's like...
And now we're going to mix that. Oh, look at it, it's so spongy. See, this is why we call it the sponge. It's all floofy. We want it to be well mixed. these proteins in it that we kind of just collectively call gluten. And when you add water, like we have done here, the proteins kind of like become all like noodle-like, is I guess how I would describe it. And they can form this network that's kind of like this stretchy net in the dough, and we call that the gluten network. So that's kind of what we do when we're kneading, is we're building up that network, making it stronger. So now what we're gonna start doing is adding flour. So we're gonna add 3 cups total. We're gonna add a mix of whole wheat and the white flour. So let's start with the wheat. So we've got this nice floured surface so that the dough doesn't stick. Now let's get this monstrosity out of here. Combine this into a mess. We're gonna need more flour. You don't want it to be sticky like this.
Okay, so what do you want to do?
Just throw some on top and I'll knead it. Or all of it.
Oh, oh, okay.
It's fine, dude. Yeah, see how it's sticking to the counter? Oh, I should have put more flour down. It's a bit tricky to knead right now because it's so sticky. So do you see what I'm doing here? With this kneading motion?
Oh,
So
I'll take notes.
So you kind of like pull it back towards yourself and push it. Bring the sides in. Push it down. Do the same. Like, you don't have to do this exact motion. It's not like a precise like science here, but like what you're basically trying to do is like mix all the ingredients together properly and, you know, like I said, build up that gluten structure.
Mm-hmm.
So what you want in the end is you want a dough that isn't too sticky and that has a consistency kind of like your earlobe. So you can like grab your earlobe to test it. But I still have so much dough on my fingers. You want to try?
Sure.
The hot cloth, and we're going to put that over the bowl again, and we're going to leave that to rise for an hour. Alright, now that we have left the dough to rise, you're going to take it out and start kneading it again to build up more of that gluten network. Alright, look at that. Nicely risen. So you know, this is the fun part. You know what you gotta do?
Well,
Punch it.
like when it's in the bowl?
Yeah, you punch the bread. Nice.
Punch.
And that just like lets out all the extra air that's gotten into it. Alright, so now we're going to turn it out onto the counter once we add maybe a little bit more flour. Press it down into the corners as much as you can, like that. Yeah, that looks great.
Okay, cool.
Delish.
Yay.
Right, so now we once again cover these with the cloth and let them rise. Alright, so after leaving the bread to rise for another hour, we are ready to put it in the oven. So, 375. Bread. Can place the bread in. And it goes.
Farewell, Jeb.
And we'll see it again in 40 minutes. The bread should be just about done. Let's see.
Voila.
Alright, now let's see. Oh,
Yay.
look at that!
Breads.
Alright, we're gonna let that cool for another 10 minutes. You want it to have like the sort of hollow sound when you beat on it. So, there we go.
And this one has it, apparently.
Yeah, this one has it.
Yay. Breb.
can see the steam coming off of it. Do you know where those holes came from?
Yes, that came from like the metabolic activity of the yeast organisms.
Yes.
There's the carbon dioxide
Yeah.
being released.
Alright, so what'd you learn today about baking bread?
Today I learned that, well, first of all, I learned how to make this kind of bread. And I kind of familiarized myself with the processes of it, and I also learned the chemical side of bread that I try hard to ignore, but I learned about yeast and how you have to feed them sugar and stuff so that they are more active. Learned about that. That was
Nice.
cool.
That's the conclusion of this baking teaching video. Yeah.